extra time.
We all appreciate the need to look after the players' physical and mental well-being. But you look at things like Johnny going well in Sri Lanka, then going home, coming back and registering 3 ducks in 4 innings. The way Moeen's rest came about and the consequences that had for Dom Bess. Was the rotation policy too rigid? Could it have been handled better? And in some instances, did it cause more problems than it solved?
Again, it's easy to sit here, a bit like we talk about selection. It's easy and looking at the surfaces. It's easy to look at it now and pick apart all of the things that potentially could be better for it. I do think it's important that next time we learn lessons from this time around. But again, it was all done in the best interest of the England team and the 3 formats moving forward for the whole year. Of course, it's not an ideal, perfect scenario. As a captain, you always want your players, all of your players, available for selection as often as possible. And that's not been the case on this tour. But I also think that you talk about we've got to get away from that. I suppose that stage of just playing people until they fall over. And yes, we might not get it right all the time to start with, but I do think that we need to move forward and look at a better way, and hopefully we find that better way very quickly. But it is going to be really important that we, with the amount of cricket that we are playing, and having a number of guys that are multi-format, that we look after everyone, and we don't get to a stage where guys are severely burnt out and we're losing out on some real talent, and also that they're losing out on the enjoyment factor of the game.
The overall record of the tour is 3 wins and 3 losses, but it's the 3 losses came at the end, and it's probably fair to say that the performance is deteriorated really. But why do you think that is? Was it because of you just ran out of steam, or was it the confidence of the batsman was eroded over the course of the game, or what do you think?
I think there's a number of things. I don't think we reacted to the changing surfaces as well as India did. I think they exploited them better. They found ways of managing the turn and non-turn, if you like, better than we did. But they also exploited it better than us too. I don't think that was a reason for us finishing how it was, but that's played a factor for sure. I do think there have been periods of the games where we found ourselves at parity and India managed to grab them. And generally in the lower scoring test matches, that is the difference. Look at this game, having India 100 odd for 5 or whatever, Rishabh Pant walks out for 4. And we have a real opportunity to make that count through some wonderful bowling, early stages of that first innings. And he managed to win that important hour of cricket, if you like. I found him that partnership with him in Washington was very good, and he's such a difficult player to keep quiet because he gets the ball in such unusual areas. And we came across some brilliant batting at that stage of the game. So there's just one example of it, but I do think that that's probably where their experience of these conditions, their experience as a whole, and probably just outweighed us and was a difference in a big difference in the factor of this series.
The attack you chose for this game looked like a massive gamble even before the match, really, and it sort of cost you. You sort of ran out of bowlers in the end, didn't you? And Pant took advantage of that. Do you sort of regret that tactic? What was the sort of? It looked like a big gamble. Is that how it felt to you before the game?
No, I think that I looked at the surface. It looked very similar to the game, the pitch before. In the previous game, I thought that spin was going to play a massive factor and be the main asset. I think it actually was damper in the middle and held together a lot better in the middle, which meant that there was a little bit of extra bounce, and Stephen was obviously a lot more threatening option at times. And that was. One of the unfortunate things to say about there was a couple of occasions where you could look back and think, could we have got selection slightly right? It's easy to say that in hindsight, but it was about trying to manage that spin aspect. Can we find ways having that extra spinner out there on the wicket that we thought was going to turn more to earlier to quicker. So that was the thinking behind it. But I do think the guys put in a remarkable shift, did a wonderful job, and did a great effort for their country.
And I also just wondered, on the checks and balances of this year, you've said that you're looking after players, their health first and foremost, and there are 3 formats to think of and stuff like that. When you get to Australia and at the end of the year, if you win the first test in Brisbane, if it is at Brisbane, do you think you're likely to make 4 changes after a winning team, or do you think that what you did here was a sort of necessity to make sure that you don't have to do that in Australia?
I think we'll have. I do think that if we are in a bubble environment, there will be an element of this that will carry over. But I do think that it's important that we learn from that and this tour as a whole, and try and make it better and improve it moving forward as well. It'd be silly for us to look at this and not try and make it better the next time, the next tour, the next series. So that there will be a number of things to consider going into that. And it'd be very naive of me to make a comment now about it when it does deserve a lot of time, attention, and thought before any decisions are made on it.
Indian coach Ravi Shastri on air actually said that the scoreline doesn't suggest the outcome of the series, and England also played very well. What he tried to mean to say that the series was very close. Do you agree with his views that you had your enough chances and you could not capitalize on them throughout the series?
Yeah, I think that, as I mentioned, there have been times when we've had a chance to wrestle the game in our favour and to get on top, and we just didn't manage to do it. I think India played those important key moments better than us in these last 3 games, and they deserve the credit, for being able to do that better than we could. So I know that there was a huge amount of effort. I know what's gone into it from our group. It's certainly not been for. The results have certainly not been for lack of effort or character. I think we stood up very well in that respect, but unfortunately we're outskilled by some very talented players in these conditions.
Yeah, tough series, a tough tour. How do you ensure that it doesn't leave lasting scars heading into the summer and then the Ashes series further down the line?
I think first and foremost, time will look after that, and there's great opportunity to play a lot of cricket between now and then. And I also think we've got to remember a lot of the good things that we've done on this trip as well. 3 out of the 6 games that we've won, and we've performed excellently well. And still in these last couple of games, there's been a couple of things that have been really positive too. So it has been disappointing. It's been frustrating to finish the series on the note that we have, but we've got to keep looking forward as a team. We've got to make sure that we keep working as hard as we are. That's one thing I'm very proud of the group. It's actually the work ethic and the willingness to try and learn and to develop and get better in these conditions is certainly there. And in many ways, that's all you can ask for from the guys. Who've just got to keep looking to upskill themselves, keep looking to take the experience, take all of the knowledge that they're getting from these games, and try and better themselves. And as long as we do that, we'll become a better team moving forward. So. I think that's going to be a really important aspect of dealing with what's to come in the next 12 months.
Was selection a big challenge for you personally during this series?
I think it's easy to look at selection in hindsight at the back end of the series when things haven't gone your way. It's obviously something that will be looked at. And, at times the wickets might not have played as we'd have thought they would have. Might not have read them as well as you would have liked either. But that's part and parcel of the game. That's something that as captain and as a team you have to take on the chin, and you have to understand that every now and again you're going to make mistakes and you're going to get those wrong. It's easy to look back now and say that was the case.
And the rotation policy, did that hinder you a bit?
The rotation policy is there to look after the players. We've said all along that making sure that the players are looked after and that their welfare and well-being is paramount. we've got to follow that through, and I think we've done that very well. It is difficult, of course. As a captain, you want all of the players available all the time, but in the current climate, it's just not possible. And we try to manage it as best as we can. But we've also got to look at at cricket for this year as a whole package, and there's so much cricket around. So it's really important that whilst bubbles in particular are around, that we continue to keep looking after the players, and also we've got to get away from playing guys and running them into the ground until they fall over. We've got to make sure that we're moving forward and developing as a team. And of course, there might have been areas, or again, looking back, very easy to say that we could have done things slightly differently. But it's all been done with the players' best interest at heart, and for the good of English cricket across the three formats.
Just on today, was that just a bit too tame for your liking?
It was disappointing. I think credit dues have to go to India. They've outskilled us. They've definitely outskilled us. They've performed very well. They've exploited the surface very well. They showed us how to bat on that wicket, and similarly with the ball today, they were excellent. So, like I said, we've just got to keep looking to get better, keep looking to learn, and trying to find ways of being better in similar conditions in the future. So yes, it was a frustrating way to finish this game, and there were periods and times throughout where we felt very much in the hunt. The credit to Rishabh and Washington, that partnership was outstanding. He made it very difficult. The way he bats makes it very difficult for bowlers to build pressure on him, and to set field to him is quite difficult sometimes when he pulls out a reverse sweep to a guy with 600 Test wickets. It's quite a skill and a brave move to do, but credit to me, it came off for him and got themselves into a very good position on that wicket.
As far as the future is concerned, how concerned are you about your batting lineup, or do you see a series in India against bowlers of that quality on pitches like this as a sort of an outlier, really, sort of unique?
I think the guys have to embrace what's happened. They have to understand it, and they have to be realistic. There are areas that we can get better at, and we'd be stupid to come away from this trip and just say, "Oh, it was India. It was extreme conditions. The ball was spinning and skidding on. It's impossible to bat." That's the wrong attitude. I think the most important thing is we come away from here and we say, you know what, there are things that we can get better at. They are world-class spinners, and high performers at home in particular, but we can be better. What can I take away from this trip? I'm going to go away and make sure that if I find myself in a similar situation down the line or a next tour or whatever, then we'll be, equipped to deal with that. But I also think when we come home and we play in our own conditions, we're a completely different side.
Hit the subscribe option and the bell icon to get all the exclusive sports videos on Extra Time.